We're starting with the news that rocked the entire sports world yesterday, maybe just the entire world. In the middle of Selection Sunday, Tom Brady is back. Sucks to be the guy who paid over $500K for Tom Brady's last touchdown pass football hours before he announced he was coming back. You just hate to see it. Geoff, with the news of his return, Tampa Bay's odds to win the Super Bowl jump back up from plus 2,500 to plus 850, third best odds. So with Brady back, do we expect a deep playoff run, or do they need to keep adding this week? I mean, they signed center Ryan Jensen to a 3-year deal, slapped that franchise tag on Chris Godwin, but they do have a lot of guys who are set to become unrestricted free agents.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of questions about the football guy as well. Like, what is he doing right now? But you're right. Like, the Bucs. Here's the thing. It's kind of a double-edged sword, right? I mean, with the Bucs, they do still have some unanswered questions. There's a lot of players, just with the tag of where are they going? Are they going to come back? Is it just automatic that everyone's coming back to the Buccaneers this year? But even if they do lose some players, and they already brought back Ryan Jensen, which I think is perhaps like the biggest piece. I mean, center is it's an underrated position in the NFL, quite frankly. Even if they do lose a couple players, let's not forget, I think there's a very solid reason why Tom Brady decided to come back, and that's because the NFC South stinks. There's no other quarterbacks in this division. This is a layup. Even the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, like at 80% of what their team was last year, probably going to win this division with their eyes closed. Then they can add at the trade deadline if they want. Tom Brady can kind of work himself back into the year if he wants. So I think that, their odds right now, it's inflated. It's an overreaction to the news cycle. We see this all the time. And I also am not sure where I'd necessarily rank them until free agency is done, done playing out. But the NFC, as we've talked about already at the beginning of free agency, it's not the stronger conference. It's a weak conference. You have kind of the Packers, maybe the 49ers up there, who are still, we don't even know who's going to start a quarterback for them, and everyone else. So, yeah, I think that the Buccaneers are going to be in the mix again, and they're probably going to walk to an easy division win again.
Yeah, Pearce, what do you think about this? Are you kind of waiting until free agency's over to reserve your decision-making for this?
No, we'll jump the gun and start making some bold predictions.
Great.
But
Love
the
that.
first prediction I want to make is, in terms of this football guy, I mean, it's terrible for him. He just lost all his money. And I would step back, and all those NFT guys who think that they've invested in something very valuable, just look what happened to this guy. Mm-hmm. And maybe learn a lesson there. We'll see how this whole NFT thing works out. Brady is fine. Brady looked at the top of his game. Everything is going to be fine for the Buccaneers. The division is winnable. As Geoff mentioned, the NFC has some top-loaded teams, but overall, it's really not the biggest and toughest division. They should have made their way through the playoffs this season. They haven't changed that much. They should be fine next year. Again, all bets are off once we get to the playoffs, and that is a year ahead. The first thing the Buccaneers need to do is get on the phone with Ali Marpet and say, hey, we're going to need you to unretire on the offensive line. And then if they can get him back and then maybe possibly add another weapon, because we saw when they lost Antonio Brown, they did start to struggle a little bit offensively. They do need another receiver. And there are guys out there. They can get role players. I mean, we've mentioned Cole Beasley before. Cole Beasley would be pretty good for this offense. You don't really need another star. You just need another role-playing receiver that can help move the chains. If they get that, the defense is already there. You get Marpet to unretire. They're going to look like a favorite in the NFC.
The Buccaneers could really use Tyler Johnson to step up this year. If Tyler Johnson steps up this year, that would help the Bucs in a lot of different ways. They wouldn't have to spend on wide receiver. They could focus more on other areas. So that's a big name to watch this year for the Bucs.